Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You are about to listen to the Totally Super Awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
This podcast is our fan tribute to the Incredible Hulk TV show. Be advised it has been exposed to radiation and we caution to listen at your own risk. You have now entered GammaCast.
Hello and welcome to the GammaCast. I'm your host. Oh, I have the hiccups. Charlie the Professor Hesser, and with me tonight once again, and hopefully
it's 80s Music Girl.
Yes, for many times to come. It's Rose, 80s Music Girl. Rose.
Yay. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, I'm sorry, hiccups.
I gotta work on an intro. I really gotta work.
Well, I was all set, and then I think I pulled something doing the growl. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome to the GammaCast, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's episode. If you're on Hulu, you don't know this, but if you are on IMDb, you know this is season 4, episode 1, Prometheus.
Oh, Prometheus.
Part 1. Episode air date November 7th, 1980. Director Kenneth Johnson, written by Kenneth Johnson and Kenneth Johnson. He doesn't need anyone else's help.
No,
he's a
Kenneth
one-man
Johnson.
band. Yes, that's
He
why
is a
he's
one-man
the boss of this show. Special guest star Laurie Prang, who plays Katie Maxwell, who, this is not her first time here over at The Incredible Hulk. Once again, we see this, looking back at talent from before. She was in Death in a Family, our very first episodes. Oh, sorry, no, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, yes, our first TV, because you had the original Incredible Hulk TV movies, which was 2 parts. Then you had Death in a Family, which was also 2 parts. She was the protagonist female in Death of a Family. So, a nice little callback there.
Yeah.
One thing I want to call her out for, because this is just a weird thing for me as a little Catholic boy.
Mm-hmm.
She had 3 different roles on the TV show Insight, which was produced by the Paulist Fathers back in the late 70s, the early 70s, early 80s, which was about this very progressive Vatican II Catholicism and like their hip way of communicating it to the people,
Wow.
like the hipster rebels they were. And honestly, as a young kid growing up, that was my catechism. And so it was very nice to see that she had that part there. They had some great actors on that, actually. It was a pretty interesting thing. Have to imagine that Denny Thomas, who was a very, very famous, strong Catholic influence, must have.
I was going to say he's very, very, very Catholic, yes.
Yes, founder of
I
St.
always
Jude's
liked
Children's House.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting to see that, but anyways, let's get to tonight's episode. Prometheus. David saves a blind woman from drowning and accompanies her back to her cabin in the woods. When a mysterious meteor crashes nearby, David gets stuck in mid-metamorphosis between Hulk and Banner. I mean, that is this episode. That is a pretty great synopsis. We get this is especially this episode, I think and we had this a little bit in the previous episode regarding, I believe that was the On the Line, where we kind of got the feeling that this was very much an amortizing of the Universal Studios backlot, where they had built this up and they were reusing it. And again, we see this backdrop of a forest with fires and a very well manicured forest, we'll say.
Nice stream, strategically placed next to the dam, of course.
Yeah, and we actually see well, yeah, of course, because you need that, you need that dam there, you need the stream there, you need to have everything ready for a go, and this was a very useful way for the good folks at Universal Studios to have everything in place, to actually have a direct revenue stream from it, to say we're going to put this under the Hulk's budget, because this is over at NBC, and it's a hit show. I mean, let's not forget this was a hit show back in the '80s when you got a lot of money for that advertising revenue. So
Absolutely.
They built up this very nice amusement park around this, and we do get to see this. What we see here is when we get, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but we see this. This use of, sort of stock stunts that have been built into the scenery that they can utilize for this.
Right.
But before we get to that, so we have this cut between David's general story, which we open up with him fishing at the foot of a dam. Catches a nice little salmon for dinner. And again, we have to say, once again, David is like the best dressed hobo in town.
He is.
For a man who...
I'm looking at the boots, and I'm going, really? You're going to go fishing in suede boots?
You know
Dude.
what, man?
He got money to burn.
He got money to burn. Honestly, I'm sure by now he's cashed the wildfire check. I'm sure by now he's gotten his money in place.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if he's calling in tips to Jack McGee just to say, "Hey, I'm going to give it to you, but I need a little something." I need a
little fun money to keep me going. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but here he is, and as we're gonna realize in a few minutes, he did just have a Hulk out, but here he is, kind of, and this is a narrative dissonance in our show where he alternates between I'm in a real rush to get out of town, but how much of a rush am I really in? He's
gotta stop and fish for dinner.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Well, he does. The man does have to eat.
This is true.
We do have to.
And he can't go back into town.
No.
He just basically tore that up like a hell on fire. So
we're opening up. He's catching his fish. He hears the siren to denote the opening of the dam. And now he's apparently clearly outside of the splash zone, so he's not too worried about it.
Right.
But the young blind lady, our Lori Prang, or Prange. Well, I'm going to assume Prang. Well, it's whether or not it says the French pronunciation or.
Okay.
But Katie Maxwell is her character. She doesn't know what's going on, and so as it's all spilling out, she is, she gets caught by it and and is almost washed away. Fortunately, David's there to protect her and save her, and to David's credit, does not have a Hulk out.
I know.
I
thought that was awfully convenient.
Yes, well, aren't the Hulk outs always very convenient?
Or are they?
Yeah, well, I mean, for what it's worth, they do manage to get everybody through their moment, and here we have a very nice example of the Hulk out not coming when we were worried about it.
Right.
But they get through it, and he saves her, and he he gets her back to her cabin. We find out that she is the victim of a drunk driving accident that left her blind, which is, pretty sad. But
It is.
Here's what I'm going to say about this, though, and this is one of the strongest aspects of this episode, is they really don't sugarcoat her anger at having lost her sight. They really are more than happy to play into this, and it's like, look, this is a real messed up situation for me. And I may crack wise 1 minute, but this is like, I'm basically in a living heck here, This is not good. And we get a nice bit about her saying, she used to play the Goldberg variations, and you really get another aspect of this, which is this idea of the trauma she has suffered and possibly some level of agoraphobia tied into her PTSD that she is now carrying with her.
Right.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that definitely.
No, I don't think you are. I don't think they had a way to describe it back then. Or if they did, they didn't want to go too far into the scenario because that would overshadow the actual storyline.
Well, yeah, I mean that is the thing. Now, at the same time, we have this interesting parallel story of the strange and mysterious meteor coming to Earth.
Yes.
And what I loved about this sort of side storyline was the fact that they really showed how people will alter their assumptions and view of things based on what they want to see more than what's there. Because first off, and we see how, first, and, it's always the woman who makes the suggestions, but, we have
women are curious now, you know that.
Yeah, well, we have the we have the NORAD commander who's like, oh, I don't think this is anything strange, and we see the little the woman there who is doing the hard math of the trajectory planning, saying, well, I don't know, I've never seen a meteor that was a cylinder like this. This is like a weird shaped meteor. Yeah. And as it's coming down, we do see everyone going, oh, it's like behaving weirdly. It's in this very reasonable pattern. It seems to be. In fact, the guy by the end of it saying it almost seemed like it's being piloted. Well, really, all he's seeing is that it's on a trajectory, and that trajectory happens to be kind of a low and slow intercept with the Earth. Kind of a glancing collision. Right. But because it is such a glancing collision, such a weird thing, we see how much people want to see what's there.
Right.
And
it kind of sets the audience up for it too.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, there is a lot of very interesting aspects of this episode. And this is, like I said, depending on how you're looking at it, this is either the season opener for season 4, which I kind of feel, honestly, it feels in every way a season opener. The only way that this isn't a season opener is if this is like part 1 of the season closer, and they're going to end on a cliffhanger. Right. But I don't know if this was when cliffhangers were really a thing.
Right.
That really got started with Dallas and Who Shot JR.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's like a Dallas with the Dynasty thing.
Yeah. Well, Dallas is credited with having like the first cliffhanger on a season finale when they shoot J.R. Ewing, and no one and it's like, who shot J.R., and you had to wait 3 months during the summer to find out who shot J.R. And then after that, everyone started doing this. They realized how great that was for even shows that no one cared about,
Yeah.
So in this case, you could see that implying here, but I don't think I don't believe they were ready to do that yet. I think they maybe opened it up with Prometheus and then went to Prometheus Part 2 in that season, in season 4.
Right.
Like I said, we're currently, for those listening at home, we're currently stuck in this problem with Hulu, in that they don't have season 4 on Hulu. They just have season 3, but they have the first 2. They have 3 episodes of season 4 on Hulu. 1 and 2 is Prometheus as the ending of season 3, but then they give us Goodbye Eddie Kane, which is about, like, on the actual IMDb listing of the episodes, that's like 6 episodes in. So we're trying to figure that out. Don't worry, fair listeners, we will have it solved before it happens.
We shall. We shall.
So getting back to the actual story, we and again we get this interesting parallel story structure in Prometheus episode 1, which is, we have David and the blind girl story, which is him sort of, sight-splaining to her how she can use her blind person's senses to find where she is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it sight-splaining.
And it kind of makes you wonder why no one did this before.
Yeah, well, this was, you need the unique intellect of a David Banner to explain to people exactly how you go about life as a blind person.
Or just in general.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's sight-splaining to her things that should be obvious to her, but
right.
For what it's worth, it kind of seems like and not for nothing. I mean, in 1980, this is a somewhat unfeeling society to the differently abled, and it does seem like people are very much either want to coddle her or toss her to the side. And she's like, I do need help, but honestly, I would rather starve in my cabin in the woods alone than have your pity.
Yeah.
And I think
that's pretty brave there.
Yeah, well, she's a pretty cool character in the way they play her throughout this, and they do show her coming into her own. Because David, with his, with his charisma and his basic Davidness, which not for nothing, you always, I don't know, man. Sometimes with Bill, I don't know how much of this is just Bill Bixby's own sexual charisma and how much of this is the writers. But like because there's this point where she's like very grateful to him for helping her out with his Boy Scout training about, where the sun is and where moss grows. She says, "How can I ever repay you?" She's like, "Oh, you've already repaid me more. You've already repaid me enough." And I don't know, maybe it's just my dirty, dirty mind, but I kind of get the feeling there was a lot of compassion that turned to passion.
Yeah, a lot of thanking, a lot of gratitude.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't know exactly what happened there, but it's not you. Yeah, okay, yeah. So as long as it's
I had a moment later on when he was hulking out.
Yeah.
In front of the meteor. So I was like, really?
Yeah.
Lady, calm down. But then I had to put it in perspective. Sorry, listeners, but here's this regular guy, and then all of a sudden, I don't think this ever happened before. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that David's hulked out while he was entwined with someone before.
Yeah.
And her expressions were just a little too amorous for me. So like, with this scene, like, hurry up and get over, because I'm, like, super uncomfortable now.
Well, not for nothing. Lou Ferrigno, he is a very physical gentleman. And, although I think they actually got a third guy to play the in-between person here.
They did.
They did.
pro wrestler, Rick Drayson.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that kind of like that bugs me a little bit because again, it's just Lou not getting his due on the show.
Well, yeah, but they had to have a middle guy. It makes sense. It actually made sense to me. I know, Lou Ferrigno worked super hard on this series, and everything, and had to have the green paint all the time, and had to do all the hard work.
Yeah.
At least they let him wear boxers this time instead of like really short pants.
Yes,
I mean, I thought that was like, wow, really? We've graduated to the boxers.
Anyway, so just to get a couple fun points in, our young woman explains to David that there's a town that, not far from here. Have you been to it? And he's like, oh yes, I've been to it. And then we cut to Jack McGee in town and the storefront that the Hulk tore through. We get them establishing, their situation. Meanwhile, we have the army coming in because they know where the meteor is going to land, and we see the army start pushing people out. We also get in this, and what I always say in this series, there's a lot of anti-fan service. Where there are clear points where if you wanted to appeal to comic book fans who are tuning in, here's where you're going to put this call out. Here's where you're going to put this moment that's going to have people saying, oh, I see what they were doing there, and isn't that awesome? And the obvious point here is we have this secret government organization called Prometheus.
Yeah.
Not S.H.I.E.L.D. And...
Right.
And it's like, oh man, you couldn't just have this be the S.H.I.E.L.D. just, covering up the alien invasion. It has to be Prometheus. For what it's worth, I think, like, years later, Peter David used the name Prometheus for a secret organization of superhumans that came to influence on the Hulk during the Professor Hulk era. But, I don't know if that was a direct reference to this or if it was just coincidence. But here we have, again, one of this and next episode, we really get to see Jack McGee just step up as a reporter.
Yeah, I gave him a nickname. I hope it's okay to use it on the show.
Well, I hope it is. We'll find out. If not, I'm going to have to. It's 23:25 on the recording. I'll tell everyone later when to bleep it. What is our nickname?
Ballsy McGee.
Oh, Ballsy McGee is fine. Yes, But you know what? Now we know why people do respect Jack McGee as a reporter.
Yeah.
As a muckraker, this is a guy who really not only is willing to go that extra mile for a story, but can get himself through that extra mile.
Yeah. He was really doing it. Sneaking into trucks, stealing uniforms.
Yeah, well, we get his moment with the with the colonel that what is it? Was it a colonel or was it a lieutenant? I don't know. But the commanding officer at the scene, and he he's talking to him, and he gets him to say way more, and you can tell that this guy's like, I really shouldn't.
He was a sergeant.
He was was he?
No.
No. He had a helmet.
I thought he was a sergeant. Yeah.
Let me see here. They don't have the pictures next to him, so it's hard to see. But it's hard to say. Possibly it was the sergeant, but like I said, he had a helmet. Usually, the helmet is more. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how exact they were because you have three militaries. You have the sergeant, Colonel Harry Appling, and Captain Welsh. I think it was.
Yeah,
Captain
I know.
Welsh. I don't know. It's hard to
was
say.
It?
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe it was the sergeant that was in the Jeep that I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, there was a lot, but he would anyway. The whole point is that he gets a lot out of this guy that really he probably shouldn't have. And then Jack, of course, we don't realize till later because we get this great scene when after the meteor hits and David and the young woman go to investigate. Well, actually, no. She gets back to the cabin. David goes to investigate the first time, and he comes back, and he's stuck in his transformation.
Right.
And we get this really neat bit where David has this he has all the mid-makeup on his face.
Yeah.
They occasionally make him look a little greener than he should, but not always. They're very inconsistent with the greening.
Was this after the bees attacked him?
Yeah, this was after the bees attacked. Well, this is the first time. So he goes there the first time he investigates. You get this thing about the radiation messing with him. Which makes sense because in the very first episode we established that his mitochondrial DNA has a certain receptor for gamma rays.
Right.
And so when he gets exposed to this heavy gamma ray radiation dose, this second gamma radiation dose, it's messing with his powers. It triggers the Hulk out in its own way.
Right.
And when he comes back, he can't get fully back to Banner. And one of the things I liked about that was that they do have that his brain isn't working very well because his primitive brain is much more powerful.
Yes. I put that it was below his intelligence level.
Yes. And it's really fascinating to watch. But he does. But what actually I like, before he actually even comes back as the Hulk. He goes back to the cabin, and you get how terrifying the Hulk must be.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing for us. We always imagine the Hulk as just this kind of superhuman hero.
Right.
But here he is breaking into this woman's home. This woman who is severely traumatized already. And this monster's coming into her arms, like, roar, roar, and she knows it's something big and something scary. Yeah. Honestly, she doesn't necessarily know it's just not a grizzly bear, but as he calms down and he gets to that middle part, and we see him trying, we see her kind of dealing with him and trying to communicate with him, and David trying to explain what his emotions are. It's really a great scene there. And
it is.
And
it
of
is
course,
very poignant.
she hides David in the closet. The military comes. And I do like the fact that later when she gets back that he's changed his clothes, but we'll get to that in a minute. She hides David in the closet because David says, it's never happened like this before, and he tries to give her as much of an explanation as he can, but you can see it's a real struggle for him. He says that McGee is dangerous, and he has to avoid McGee. And it's fascinating to me because one wonders if he had just actually it's one of these moments when we get to the second episodes, if everything had gone a little more smoothly, if David might have, if he could have explained everything to her, she might have been able to figure out, you know what, in this situation, McGee's going to be an asset, and let's figure out how we can work things together. But then, of course, it's a much shorter series, as I always say. But the military.
I like the part where he comes back. Well, the fact that she just gets away, to me, is just like, it's the oxymoron, the reference to military intelligence.
Oh, yes, of course. Well,
and they're moving a tree, and she jumps off the truck, and then she uses all the senses that David told her she had and gets back to the cabin, and he's still in the closet. No. I'm just like, that's funny. I thought he would have tried to break out. I stayed here just like you told me, and that's when you know that the Hulk pretty much is, he's like in twixt with
he's betwixt and between
with reality and sterility almost. It's just like, yep, I'm still in here.
But like I said, he took the time to change his shirt. He took the time to say, well, I'm in here.
I found some clothes. I hope they fit,
Hey, not for nothing. Why does she have that many men's clothes in her closet? Well, actually, no. Okay, they did establish.
Her brother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is her brother's cabin that she's living in. So he apparently keeps he keeps a lot of clothes in that closet, in the cabin at all times.
Just because.
Just cause. Man, guys, I'm guessing her brother's a clothes source. He likes to wear the outfits,
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's a family where you had a professional pianist in it. This is a family that had some money to start with,
Right.
So, yeah, I can follow that. I can headcanon all that. But he comes out and he's got the nice well-cut black shirt on.
Yeah.
And I forget the exact reason why they realize they have to get out. But, no, because they're going to go to her brother's house, because I guess her brother does live in town, not far from the cabin. But, of course, as they're going there, they have to cross across the meteor. Mm-hmm. David starts getting freaked out again. And then the military shows up, and, of course, also Jack McGee, who is there in his Prometheus universe form, who is, again, he had commandeered a Jeep. Man, you're seeing Jack McGee in these 2 episodes. You're like, how has he not already cracked this case?
Exactly.
You know what it is? It is really, Jack McGee has a really strong confirmation bias in all of this because we get this shouted out next episode where he keeps on calling him John still.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he knows John isn't his name because he knows that was just the John Doe name.
Right.
But he still can't break away from that because he's just gotten so used to that. But we'll get to that next episode. In this episode, we see the Hulk out. We see Jack McGee, see him in the betwixt state, so he can't recognize him as Banner.
Mm-hmm.
Although he still looks a lot like Bill Bixby with just stuff on his face.
Yeah.
But But I think
how about that?
I think Jack McGee may have some level of facial blindness because this is not the first time he's come real close to David Banner and not recognized.
Yeah, just who's actually blind here. Come on now.
But of course, then the helicopters come in, and we do get another Hulk out. I was actually wondering if we were not going to have a lot of Hulk outs. I thought we were only going to have one Hulk out this episode, but we do get the extra Hulk out. And we get the capturing of the Hulk in this completely implausible dome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? What is that?
How did that get a bottom to it? Yes.
I thought it was like a big magnet for the meteor or something.
Well, I mean, I remember this episode fondly, and I knew it was a big metal dome.
Mm-hmm.
But you never realize, wait, when they drop the dome on him, there's no bottom to the dome, because that's how they drop it on him. But when they lift the dome up, now it's got a bottom. So my total headcanon on this is actually really awesome super tech. It did have this kind of nanotech bottom that came out underneath it to trap the Hulk, and that worked out perfectly. Right. I mean, all you can say is that's what happened, so something happened.
Exactly.
And they drag the Hulk and the young lady and the meteor all out in that, and that's the end of the episode.
Not once crashing. That's just bizarre to me.
Yes. He does take out one copter, and
that was intentional. I mean, he wanted them to bug off, but it's just like you're gonna lift all of this stuff and you're gonna fly. It's gonna take you hours to get where you're going, even if it is Colorado. But
as luck would have it, the meteor crashed within driving distance of the secret location. So, every so often things worked out just
convenient.
Fine. It was,
once again.
It was. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that's the that is, impossible.
No.
Honestly, if you're an alien, if you're assuming aliens, which everyone is at this point, they're thinking, well, maybe they're trying to come here, maybe they know we're here, so.
Yeah, Utah, why not?
Why not? Well, what else is there in Utah? Except mountains in which to have,
salt flats.
Yes, Alien observatories. Okay, and that is the end of this episode, Rose. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I have several.
Okay, give me as many as you have.
Unfortunately, and it's just an observation, of course, David's like his own worst enemy. His curiosity as a scientist it's like, really, you got the headache thing and it didn't convince you to turn around and go back. But then where would the episode be if, that didn't happen to him? But I just felt like, it clearly in the beginning, it was stated, they emphasized that it was high levels of gamma radiation, but then he wasn't in the room to hear that.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, he's just going there like, oh, I'm getting this headache. Why am I getting this headache?
Yeah, painful.
Yeah, it was.
And which is great. Like I said, it leads to more drama and more Hulk outs, and it's okay.
Yeah, well,
I just really think that sometimes
I'll totally headcanon that for you right now, because of the gamma radiation.
Sure.
As he's approaching it, it's triggering that primordial brain part. So even as he's walking towards it, his intellect is falling.
There you go. Oh my God.
So that idea that I have to get out of here. That's fantastic.
If I had two hands to clap together, I would do that.
There you go.
He give you a standing ovation for that. Yeah, that was awesome.
He's already losing that ability to turn away because he's got
the reason. Yeah, exactly. Losing the ability to reason. That's awesome. Well done, Charlie.
That's what I'm here for, man. That's why I'm the professor. I headcanon it all. I make it all make perfect sense. At the end of the day, it all makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm glad. The statement that they said from the whole.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. The thing with genre television, the thing with all genre television is you either have to think about it too much or not enough. You have to think about it. You have to overthink it enough that everything gets headcanoned and you're cool, or you have to just sit back and enjoy it and not think about it too much. So people that think about it just enough to get angry, they're the people that have a hard time with genre television.
Yeah, that's okay. But the statement that he made, are they normal? Why wouldn't they be? But then again, he's looking up from however many thousands of feet he is in the air, or hundreds or whatever. And considering, I guess they just automatically assumed that because they're next to the meteor that they came from it.
Well, yeah.
Which is totally fine.
Yeah, well,
I guess.
Again, it's that confirmation bias. You start out, it's like, oh, there's a meteor. And honestly, the damage caused by this meteor is real suspicious because it's not nearly as much as that a meteor of that size should have caused. But you get to this point where you have these people that are sitting there going, you have this confirmation bias where they're assuming it's something. They're assuming it's something, and then they're gonna, when they see something, they're gonna say, "Well, could it be that they're this? Could it be that they're that?" So yes, again, it is that urge towards the confirmation bias.
Absolutely. So that was pretty much it. I do have a couple other points, but they actually spill over into
the next episode. Okay, well, we'll save those for next week, fair listeners, when we come back for Prometheus Part 2. Rose, how can people find you if they want to find you on the social meds? The social meds, as the kids say today.
The social meds.
The social meds.
I'm like social meds. I am at 80s Music Girl on Twitter, 80s Music Girl on Facebook, and 80s Music Girl on Instagram.
Okay, and of course you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet this very episode and other episodes when I can at superconnectivity. I'm sorry, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle for quality. And I do live tweet this show 7 o'clock on Saturdays Eastern Time, Eastern Daylight Time. By the time you hear this, and MeTV in New York City, which is channel 33. Okay.
At 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock Eastern Time. I think I've made that. Yes. Okay. Thank you for listening, for our listeners. Thank you for hulking out on us. Please hulk out with us again. Good night.
Good night.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.